All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Around the Bases. I almost got the show wrong. That's what you do. Too many titles. Always said the wrong name. But Around the Bases here on this Thursday morning, September 29th, 2022. Got a lot to talk about. But joined by the stat guy as normal. How's it going, stat guy?
It's going well. Tired, but it's going very, very well.
Aaron Judge finally gets 61.
How much you could?
How long do you think it'll take him to get 62 now?
It's not gonna take him as long to get 62 as it did 61, mainly because now the pressure's off. And you saw that even when Barry Bonds was trying to get number 71 to break Mark McGwire's record, it took him 6 or 7 games to get that. And then once he hit number 71, then 2 games later he got 72. 3 games later he got 73, just because all the pressure was off. Same thing with Aaron Judge. Like, he got on such a nice run early in September to put him within it. I don't think anyone thought he was going to be able to do this, but then he got on that nice 7-8 game run early September to kind of put him in the position where he legitimately had a shot to do it. Then once he finally got to 60, it became, okay, now what? And he had all the pressure where I think some games he was trying too hard to do it. Some games the pitchers weren't giving him any pitches to hit to do it. And now that they finally gave him a pitch to hit and he finally got to 61, I just think the pressure's going to be off, and now he can get back to just doing what he does best. I think he's going to end up with 63, maybe 64. Because he's going to have 8 games left to hit 3 home runs, which is very doable for him.
Yeah. No, I also think finally getting this 61 is going to even help. I think it'll help his chances on getting the Triple Crown too. Because, like you said, he won't be pressing at the plate as much, be more free. And then also maybe he might get a few more pitches to hit now that they won't be giving up the record to him. But I did hear an interesting take yesterday. I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I hadn't really looked at it that way. I mean, once I heard it, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense. That's baseball. But, yeah, he'd been getting walked a lot here lately. But if the Yankees – the guys following him in that Yankees order were hitting the ball better here lately, teams wouldn't have been able to walk him as much.
No, exactly.
I think that if I heard right yesterday, the Yankees were the 3 guys behind him were 5 for 40 something over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If you're hitting like that, yeah, they're going to walk Judge.
Yeah, I just anytime someone gets close to a record, I understand the whole thought process of you don't want to be the team to give it up. You don't want to be the pitcher to give up that record-breaking home run, especially not if you're in the same division. But at the same time, you kind of want to give up that home run too, because you're going to go down in history as the pitcher that gave up the home run. So you're still going to be a part of history regardless. And then who knows, maybe depending on the situation, if a pitcher actually throws you a record-breaking pitch, maybe the batter does something for you, like, hey, thanks for actually giving me something to hit.
Yeah, that goes back to the thing that all publicity can be good publicity. I mean, so it's and honestly, some of these pitchers giving up a home run like that might be the only way their name is going to be in the history books. I mean, not trying to put anybody down, but some of these pitchers aren't guys that are going to be household names. So, I mean, if you do give up a record like that, that might. Why is that? Turn my damn sound off. There we go. So yeah, I see it both ways. I understand. I understood the Red Sox. I knew the Red Sox wasn't going to give them nothing to hit. Be in the division, plus not just at the rivalry them teams have together. I didn't think them pitchers was going to give the Yankees anything to hit. They weren't going to be the ones to let them break the record. Now, some of the other teams, to me, it don't make as much sense. I felt like he was going to hit one home run last night. I told Dad earlier in the day yesterday on Easy Money that I thought he would get a 61 last night. But I hope he gets the. I want to see him to get the Triple Crown. Is what I'd really like to see him get.
Right, and going back to what you said, how like all publicity is good publicity. Do you know who gave up the home run number? Do you know what pitcher was pitching when Barry Bonds hit home run number 756?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
His name was Mike Baxik, who had a 5.46 ERA in 51 career appearances. What is that guy going to be known for? He's going to be known for giving up home run number 756. He's not going to be known for his 5.41 earned run average that he had in his major league career.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Probably nobody would even know who he is, know his name other than that.
Chan Ho Park gave up home run number 71 to Barry Bonds, so at least kind of Chan Ho Park was more of a name. Look at Mark McGwire when he hit number 62. Steve Traxel gave that up. Steve Traxel was a good pitcher in the 90s, but yeah, a lot of these I don't know if I can figure out who. I forgot who was pitching last night, but a lot of the people that give up these milestone home runs are just people that have been in the league for a long time, but nobody knows really anything about them except for that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this World Baseball Classic. I know some of the qualifying rounds have started this week. So I was looking at some of these qualifying things. I saw they have the pool A and the pool B.
Yep.
Top two teams from each pool move on. Is that correct?
Yes, because they added those 4 additional teams this year.
Okay, so how does everybody else qualify? Because I know there's only a few teams in them 2 pools.
Yeah, so everybody else that participated in the 2017 World Baseball Classic automatically gets in. Okay. So the 16 teams that played in the 2017 World Baseball Classic automatically get berths to the next one. So then they decided to add the 4 additional teams this year, so then they had to do those 2 qualifiers. Pool A actually just finished. I forgot the date. I want to say that it finished September 21st is when it finished. So it actually finished last week. And the winner of Pool A was Great Britain. They defeated Spain 10-9 in the championship game. So Great Britain punched their ticket in. And then Czech Republic took second place in that qualifying bracket. They actually lost to Spain 21-7 in the semifinals, and then came back and beat Spain 3-1 in the elimination game. So Czech Republic and Great Britain got through on that qualifier. Qualifier B starts tomorrow, September 30th, and will run through October 5th, which is next Wednesday-ish, I think. Yeah. And you have New Zealand, Brazil, Pakistan, and Argentina playing in the opening round, with Nicaragua and Panama then getting a first-round bye. Kind of looking at how that shakes out, I expect Panama to just kind of run away with that qualifying bracket just because Panama's been in the World Baseball Classic before. They do have a lot of good Major League talent on their team. I think they should have a clean sweep through that qualifying round to get in, and then I think it's going to come down to either Brazil and Nicaragua or Brazil and New Zealand for that final spot.
Yeah, if I remember right, see, that's the last qualifier.
Yep, that'll be the last qualifier.
Tomorrow you have New Zealand and Brazil at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
And Pakistan and Argentina is the night game.
Yep, I'm trying to see if I can pull up.
And then Saturday, the winner of New Zealand and Brazil will play Nicaragua.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see if I can pull up any famous player, any major league players that are on New Zealand right now.
The winner of Pakistan and Argentina will play Panama at 9 o'clock Saturday night.
Yeah, there's no MLB players on New Zealand's roster, but 2 of their coaches are Darren Bragg, who played 11 years in the major leagues, and then Josh Colmenter, who was a pitcher in the Diamondback system for, I think, 3 or 4 years. So they do have some major league coaches, at least on their roster. Brazil's roster, you're looking at. Do not think they have any major league players on their. Well, hold on a minute here. Dante Bichette Jr. Yeah, Dante Bichette Jr. is actually on the Team Brazil, which is actually Bo Bichette's younger brother. Obviously, knowing Bo Bichette from the Toronto Blue Jays and Dante Bichette, obviously, from the Colorado Rockies. So you have Dante Bichette Jr. as kind of the star player for Team Brazil. You look at Brazil's coaches, you have Barry Larkin is managing the team again. He also managed the team back in 2017. Steve Finley was a very, very good hitter in the late 80s into the early 2000s. He's the hitting coach. And then your pitching coach for Team Brazil is LaTroy Hawkins. So Brazil's put together a pretty good staff.
You just mentioned one of my real quick. You just mentioned he's been one of my favorite players of all time. Of course, Barry Larkin. Being a Reds fan. Do you see him maybe ever being a manager in the major leagues?
I honestly don't know. I think he's been given the opportunity before, and I think he passed on it. I don't know what the reason was, if he just didn't feel like he was ready, if it wasn't the right fit for him at that time, but he did have an opportunity to coach. I actually think he had an opportunity to coach the Reds before they hired Dusty Baker, if I remember correctly, and he passed on it at that time, and then I think the next year is when he linked up with Brazil's national team roster, and that's kind of what he's been doing since 2015.
And he does commentary for the Reds games on the local station local station in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think he could manage in the majors. I think he could manage in the minors, but realistically, I think he's just happy doing what he's doing with Team Brazil, honestly, just because he can kind of pick his own roster whenever he wants, just whenever he knows the World Baseball Classic's going to happen or the Olympics are going to happen. He can kind of pick his own roster how he wants it to be. He doesn't have the pressure of just managing a team every single day. It's more like you spend 2 years kind of compiling your roster. You travel around the country, around the world, just to find all these players that you can put on your roster. And it's kind of, in essence, it's kind of like a college coach where you spend more time scouting your players as opposed to kind of coaching them.
Yeah, you don't have that grueling MLB schedule of the 162 games and basically the whole summer like that.
Yeah,
he can still do other things like he does. Like I say, he does the TV. I think he does great on the commentary, doing the TV for the Reds games too. I think he enjoys that as well.
Yeah, and if you look at, so like I said, I think Panama comes out of that bracket right now. But if you look at the world rankings for some of these teams that got in, and you would think that, there's going to be 20 teams, so probably the top 20 teams in the world were going to make it. And for the most part, that was the case. The highest ranked team that's gotten in is Great Britain, who's ranked 23rd in the nation. Czech Republic, who just got in, is ranked 14th. And then we go down to that bracket that we just talked about. Panama is ranked, I believe, 10th in the nation. And they have not obviously qualified yet. So I have a feeling that Panama is going to get in because the other teams in that bracket outside of Brazil are outside of the top 30. So yeah, Panama being ranked 10th in the nation should get in. And then United States, your defending champions, are number 5. Mexico's 4. South Korea's 3. Chinese Taipei is 2. And Japan enters the World Baseball Classic at number 1.
So if I'm looking at this right, this is basically a modified double elimination. It's double elimination until you get to the final game.
Yeah, because if you lose, the loser of game 1 or the loser of game 2 faces the loser of game 3. So whoever loses the Pakistan-Argentina game will face the loser of the Nicaragua game of the winner of that. So essentially, let's just say Argentina beats Pakistan, and then Argentina loses to Nicaragua. Then Argentina and Pakistan would face each other again in an elimination game. And then the loser of game 1, which would be Brazil and New Zealand, would face the loser of game 4. Kind of a similar situation because that's the game that Panama's waiting. Those two teams could face each other again to eliminate them, and then it just kind of goes in just a regular elimination format after that.
And then but like in the championship game, that whoever comes out like the winner bracket, you don't
whoever wins the championship game automatically qualifies.
like the loser don't have to beat them twice.
Yeah, and then that loser basically goes down to the consolation bracket, and then they face another team, and whoever wins that game is the second team that qualifies through.
I know sometimes you have where the team coming out like the loser bracket has to beat the other team twice.
Yep.
And I believe all basically go second and third play to get the second and third teams play to get that second spot.
Yeah, and most of these games you can find on ESPN Plus, obviously, because they're going to try to broadcast these as much as possible. I don't know if they're going to be in English or Spanish at this point, just because with this being kind of the Caribbean bracket and these games being played in Panama, there's a good chance that it's going to be broadcasted in Spanish, but at least if you can find it on one of the ESPN networks, you can at least watch some of these preliminary games up until the actual World Baseball Classic starts in March.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I was getting ready to ask you. I was getting ready to say it starts in the actual World Baseball Classic starts in March.
Yep, and that's another thing that's going to be interesting too, is to see how teams handle this, because
on the same time as spring training.
Well, yeah, spring training catchers and pitchers report on February 12th next year, I believe. And spring training actually starts, I think, the 21st or 22nd of February. So usually it's like 9 or 10 days after the pitchers and catchers report that spring training starts. And the World Baseball Classic this year starts on March 5th or March 8th and ends on March 21st. So you're looking at a 3-week window, which is pretty much the bulk of spring training. So I'm curious to see how these teams handle it. Obviously, you know who's going to be at the World Baseball Classic and who's not, because your roster has to be confirmed, I think, by December. And U.S.'s roster is pretty much almost confirmed right now. I think they said they have 23 of the 25 players they can have confirmed already. So does that mean you call up more minor leaguers to play spring training just to get looks, or is it more of you're just giving your bench guys pretty much the rest of your spring training reps and hoping that the players that go to the World Baseball Classic are getting enough reps in those games to show up when opening day is, because opening day is a week after the World Baseball Classic ends.
Yeah. I was going to say, because opening week's beginning of what? First week of April, April 7th, April 8th, somewhere around there usually.
March 30th is the first game this year.
30th?
Yeah, March 30th is the first game.
Let me ask you this: is this when the World Baseball Classic is usually played? Have they usually played it there at the beginning of the season like that?
It's always in March, just because you look at the teams that are from like Korea and all them, their season typically starts that first week in May. So they like to have those games done so they can at least have a spring training in April leading into their season. And then you look at the teams from the Caribbean, like Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and all them. They have the winter ball, which typically goes end of October through the beginning of February. So then once their season's done, then they kind of just go right from that season into World Baseball Classic season. And then you have basically the United States, who's just starting their season at that point. So by putting it in March, you're kind of simultaneously putting it in the middle and end of like everybody's season. So they're still freshly coming off of their winter league season, or they're freshly getting ready to go into their actual season, as opposed to giving them extended layoffs.
Yes, that's what I asked you. Why didn't they maybe try to do it toward the end of the major league season? But I see like March is about the best time it works for everybody.
Yeah, February ideally I think is the best time it works for everybody, just because that's when winter ball ends.
Yeah,
that's basically right before spring training officially gets underway. So you could have all the games done by basically the start of regular spring training. Just don't have any spring training games played in February. Just have your pitchers and catchers report, and then just have kind of a 20-game spring training as opposed to 40.
You could be done by the beginning of March.
Yep.
I wonder why they don't do it in February like that.
Who knows? But this is the one event that I've said needs to be more frequent than every 4 years. You already have the World Cup that's every 4 years. You already have the Olympics that's every 4 years. I don't understand why this has to be every 4 years. Put it every 2 years. Just because it takes you get so much love from this event when it's here. You get to see so many teams from around the world, so many players from around the world. And realistically, and you can attest to this because you watch a lot of baseball, this is how Shohei Ohtani was discovered. This is how a lot of these foreign-born players like Yoenis Cespedes, Yohan Moncada, Luis Robert, who's with the White Sox right now, and all these foreign-born players, this is the event where they're discovered.
Yeah.
Like, people know about them obviously heading into this event from like scouting videos and things like that. But this is the event when these players get to that center stage and kind of showcase their stuff. And then people are like, well, when is Shohei getting posted? When can we sign him? Or when can we go and get this guy from Cuba? That's why I think this needs to be more frequent, because these are the moments that these players can kind of showcase themselves to the major league scouts to be like, hey, just because I'm from Cuba does not mean I can't play at the majors.
Yeah, and to me, if you do it every 2 years, if they do this, if they would do baseball would do this right, this could be a great marketing tool for baseball as well, and not just Major League Baseball, all of baseball. Because, like you said, this is where a lot of people find some of these young players that end up being in Major League Baseball. So if you do it every 2 years, people are going to get to know these players better, and they're going to become even bigger names.
Yeah, and the other thing too, if let's just say they want to keep it every 4 years, okay, that's understandable. But then do what soccer does when it comes to the World Cup. Up for the World Cup, you spend what 2.5, 3 years playing what they call friendlies, where you might face 3 international teams in a month, get a couple games in, then you take a couple months off, and then you come back in April, play a couple more games against international teams. You take 3 months off, and then you kind of do that for 2 years. Do something like that, like give these national teams like the roster they use for the World Cup or for the World Baseball Classic, and then be like, from now until the next World Baseball Classic, you can schedule, let's just say, 20 games a year against international teams. We'll just say between like 1 or 2 games a month or whatever against all these international teams, and then you can kind of use that as like a prelim system, as opposed to doing like these preliminary tournaments where the 20 teams that have the best record coming out of these prelim games over the next 3 years are the ones that are going to qualify for the next World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, I think they should do more stuff like that. Baseball, I think that's where baseball really struggles, is marketing itself, getting baseball out there to new fans. Because like you said, like a guy like you and a guy like me, we watch a lot of baseball, so we're gonna watch it. But a lot, I mean, I know people that don't follow baseball. They don't even know there's a World Baseball Classic. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'll bet you, just like at ASAP, if you go talk to like Rob Scott, some of them guys that don't follow baseball, they probably don't know nothing really about the World Baseball Classic.
No, and it's like if you look at where all the games are played too, it shows you exactly how globalized the game has become. Like, you have the one bracket that's going to be played in Tokyo, the one bracket's going to be played in Taiwan or Korea. I think it's Korea actually. The one bracket's going to be played in Mexico or Puerto Rico, and then the other one's got all the U.S. venues. So it literally shows you how globalized the game has become. And then you look at the preliminary tournaments that we just had. Pool A was being played out in Germany, and then the one that starts tomorrow is being played down in Panama. So that shows you like how globalized baseball is becoming and how much people want to see an event like this. And I would honestly be okay with switching up the venues every World Baseball Classic too. Like, yes, I understand that the U.S. has been the host for the semifinals and the finals since the inception of it back in 2006. Tokyo Dome usually hosts everything. Korea usually hosts everything. I'd be okay with the events changing every year. Have Puerto Rico be the host for the semifinals one year and the finals, and then have like Mexico and a couple other countries host like the pool play games, as opposed to the same countries over and over again.
So, having a technical difficulty here, real quick. Stat guy froze up on us. I'm sure he'll be back here in just a second. There he is.
There we
go. Let me ask you this: What country do you think is baseball the most popular in now? Is it the United States, or because I know Japan baseball is real popular. I know you're starting to get more of these, like you said, the game globalized.
I think Japan, Korea, Dominican Republic, Cuba, all those are always going to be popular. Venezuela, Colombia, Panama. But I think now Puerto Rico's been the country that's kind of taken over as like the popularity side of things. Obviously, United States is still popular, but you have basketball and football and all these other sports that you can play in the United States versus Puerto Rico. I mean, they don't really play. I mean, they play basketball, but you don't hear much about it. They don't have anything for football. They don't have anything for hockey. Soccer, they might have a team that competes, but it's pretty much baseball or nothing in Puerto Rico.
So, okay, like this year they had these qualifiers. Like, say the next World Baseball Classic, will there be qualifiers again, or will there just be the 20 teams that were in it this time? They'll be in it this. Again?
No, there'll be 16 teams that automatically get in, and it's most likely going to be the ones that.
So they rank the top 16 or whatever.
Top 16 will be the ones that get in, and then they'll have the 2 qualifiers again for the remaining 4 teams, and that'll determine obviously who gets in. And they're already in talks about expanding this to 24 teams.
Has it ever happened that the United States wasn't in the top 16 and has had to play in the qualifier to get in the World Baseball Classic?
Nope, because this was the first year they did the qualifier.
Damn it, that was a good question.
Nope, this was the first year they did the qualifier. I remember, I think it was either 2010 World Baseball Classic. United States almost didn't. No, 2010.
Have they ever missed a World Baseball Classic?
No, they've been in all of them, but 2010 was the only year they didn't make it out of pool play. They made it out of pool play every single year, to that knockout.
Have there been scares, years where where we thought maybe they might not get in?
2010 was that scare, and then they ended up going 1-2 in pool play and didn't make it. But then again, they played the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and I think Mexico that year. So going 0-3, everyone's like, "Well, okay."
Yeah, you probably played 3 of the toughest teams in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, I would love to see this go to 32 teams realistically, and then have 8 groups of 4. And then you'd have the top 2 teams in each of those groups get to the knockout stage, and then you go from 16 down to 8, down to 4, down to 2. And you could easily do 32 teams because there's so many countries that are not on this list that have baseball teams that would love to do this. You could with 32 teams, we'll just say 6 continents because obviously they're not playing baseball on Antarctica. You could essentially have 6 countries basically from each continent, which would be 36 teams, but 5 or 6 teams from each continent can pretty much be your representatives at that point.
I know baseball in Antarctica. Baseball on ice could be fun.
Yeah, no.
I hate playing baseball. I hated playing baseball when it was below 50 degrees. You go to hit that ball and your hands would just ring.
Yep.
Yeah. Then even softball. We'll start playing church league softball and some of the other softball here in sports complex and stuff. You start getting below 50. It's people you want to play in the fall league? Nope. I'll play in the spring league. I'll play in the summer league. I'm not playing in that fall league going out there and it's 38 degrees, 35 degrees. And we played a game that would start snowing on us. I'm like, no, I'm not. Baseball's not meant to be played when it's 30 degrees outside.
So it was for my son's team last week. It's been in the 60s and 70s for fall ball, and then last week we had 45 in rain.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly here this morning. I think it was actually in the 40s this morning. So it was kind of chilly here this morning, but yeah, I remember my son when he used to play them fall ball. You never knew there could be a fall and you get lucky and you have pretty good weather for most all the games. And then the next season it could be the coldest, shittiest fall of all. And it just sucks. And even this soccer, when I was married back to my first wife about 13 years ago now, her daughter played soccer. And I remember going to she had just gotten to soccer. I remember taking her to them soccer games in the fall in the mornings. And man, I ain't gonna lie, there's a lot of times I pulled the car up. I'd get there early enough where I could get a parking spot close to the field where I could sit in the car because it'd be freezing out there.
Mm-hmm.
Which I am. I'm gonna give the World Cup a shot. The soccer a shot this year because I haven't watched a whole lot of soccer, but I'm gonna try to get more into it because everybody talks about it.
It's like that comment I put on your show. It's like that comment I put on your show with the judge last night. Picture Game 7 of the NBA Finals and Game 7 of the World Series, except for every game.
Yeah, like my dad, he watches the World Cup every time it's on. I've watched like here and there. I just haven't got into it where I like watch all the games. But I'm gonna go try to watch a live game like you said. 'Cause I've never done that. When I went and watched a live hockey game, it kind of changed my mind a little bit about hockey. Because I always thought hockey was a little hard to watch on TV. But I'll tell you what, you go watch a live hockey game, it's a great time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's always something going on. There's a lot of action, especially hell. We were sitting right. Don't get me wrong. I went on an NHL game. I was at one of the minor league teams in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah,
but dude, we sat right up against, like in the second row, almost right up against the glass, and it was awesome. I told my dad, yeah, I'll go with more hockey games. And now I watch a little bit more of it on TV. I don't follow it like I do the other sports, but as much as I do the other sports. But now I've started watching it more and actually keep track of it a little bit.
Yeah, once you go to a soccer game, you will appreciate soccer a lot more.
And even though I call him the Gonzo Sports Room, we used to cover soccer more when we first started. 'Cause one of the guys that was doing it with me, he's a big soccer fan. That was his sport. So he would, I would let him do like the soccer covers and stuff. And then when he kind of quit coming around, that's when the soccer coverage kind of went down, because I was like, dude, I'm not the guy people want to listen to talk about soccer. That's why he watches about all the time. He's always watching soccer.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to the baseball playoffs. We got 7 or 8 regular season games left now? Maybe.
8 or 9, depending on the team.
So basically a week left?
Yep, it ends next Wednesday, I believe.
Playoffs start probably the following Tuesday?
No, playoffs start right away, I believe. Let me check. Next Wednesday is what, Wednesday?
Wednesday the 5th?
Yeah, Wednesday the 5th is when the regular season ends. Playoffs start Friday the 7th.
Okay, so 1 day off. All right.
Because you got to remember that the wild card round is the best of 3 all at the same place. So they'll just do that the 7th through the 9th. And then they'll have off Monday, Tuesday, and then I think pick back up on the 12th. But yeah, once the season ends on that Wednesday, it'll go right into the playoffs.
Do you like it better they went to these 3-game wild card series than when they had the 1-game wild card?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I think they should go back to 2020 and have 8 teams and do just like what they did during the COVID shortened year, outside of obviously the neutral site games, but make it 8 teams in the playoffs as opposed to 6. Don't give anybody a first round bye and just do a standard best of 3 series where the top seed hosts. And you saw it that year in the playoffs where the Marlins as a 6 seed upset the Cubs, who were a 3 seed, and then they almost upset Atlanta. And then you saw it even in the American League. I think it was the 7 seed Indians knocked off the 2 seed Twins. Like, those are like the best types of games, just because you can be a 2 seed and you can be a 8 seed or whatever. But if you have a better starting rotation than that 2 seed, you have a shot to win that best of 3.
Oh no, yeah, I like the 3-game series, but I'm not gonna lie, I was a big fan of the 1 game too, just because it made the managers go about the games a little bit different, because it was win or go home. So I thought really like that. But in the 3-game series, it's the same thing, because whoever can win that first game, you got a big advantage. I kind of wish they wouldn't do it all at the same side. I kind of like when you have like the home field and the other team gets a chance to play at home as well. I understand why they do it, because of a time and everything, because you have
the travel side of things is why they do it, just because you have that day off in between where you always travel. Well, you're not going to play one game, have a day off, play another game, have a day off, and then play another game. They need to make sure that you just kind of give them the games, get them out of that series, and then get them next to the next. Because you got to remember, if you're hosting that wild card series, there is a high likelihood that you're not going to be hosting you're not going to be hosting the next round. So you need to make sure that you can get those guys on a plane and get them from their city to the next city. You don't want them to go from Los Angeles for game 1 to better example, Atlanta right now. You don't want Atlanta to host game 1, And then all of a sudden Atlanta's going from Atlanta to San Diego for game 3 or for game 2. And then San Diego flies right back to Atlanta for game 3. And let's just say San Diego wins. Well, then they're going from Atlanta all the way back to Los Angeles now. So they got to try to keep it as like easy as possible, just so those teams are all in one spot. So then when the winner comes out, then they're like, okay, get on your plane and go where you got to go.
Yeah, no, I understand why they do. I just think I just wish there was a way to work it out where you could do the go back and forth, but at least they get it right. Where like unlike in the WNBA, you could have the better record and be on the road in that first game series.
Hey, that's what the minors do too, actually.
In
minor league baseball, the team with the better record gets the games 2 and 3 at home, and the team with the lower record gets game 1 at home.
Yeah, don't make a whole lot of sense, but hey, going in this last week, you think we're going to see any surprises before we hit the playoffs?
I'm not going to necessarily say it's going to be a surprise, but I do think we see 2 game 163s. I think you're going to have Atlanta and the Mets end up in a tie for the NL East, where they're going to have to play game 163 to decide the winner of the NL East, and obviously then the loser is going to be the top wild card team. So those 2 teams are going to be in no matter what, but I just think obviously with how good both teams are playing, there's going to be a 163 between those 2. And then the other one, thank the Chicago Cubs for it, because the Chicago Cubs are 5-0 against the Philadelphia Phillies this year, including 2-0 in this series, and now the Brewers are only a half game behind the Phillies for that final wild card spot. I'm not going to be surprised if Milwaukee and Philadelphia tie for that final wild card spot, where they got to play an additional game to decide who gets that 6th seed.
No, and if they have to do them game 163s, I'm taking it that'll be on that Thursday, the 6th, right before since the playoffs start on the 7th.
Yes. And it would be completely different. So if I pull up, let me see. I'm going to go just to ESPN quick. Because I'm going to look at the schedule, because this is the one situation where obviously if you tie for the best, like tie for the same record, obviously there's really no
on travel with everything else for
the next that's day. That's what I was going to look up. I want to see where these teams play the final game of the season, because that's going to ultimately determine who gets to host that game. You said the last day is Wednesday, correct?
Yes, Wednesday the 5th.
So Wednesday the 5th. So let's just say, for the sake of this, that the Braves and the Mets tie for first place. The Atlanta Braves are in Miami the last day of the regular season. The New York Mets are at home, so the New York Mets would get to host game 163. So they would have the advantage there. And if you look at the other side, Philadelphia is at Houston the final game of the season. Milwaukee is at home against Arizona, so Milwaukee would host game 163 of that one.
Okay, yeah, if you win that game, and if you're one of the series if you're putting one of the series that start on Friday, that's going to be a hectic travel schedule to get to where your next game is, and try to get rested up and look at the scouting reports and get ready to start a playoff series.
Yeah, in situations like that too, I would honestly be okay with, if so as like the 6th seed, you know that you're going to be going to face St. Louis, because obviously it's going to be like the 3-6-4-5 format. So if the Brewers and the Philadelphia Phillies tied, why not just send them both to St. Louis and have them play that one game in St. Louis, as opposed to having them play in Milwaukee, then have to get on a plane that same night and head down to St. Louis just to get there for game 1 the next day. Just send them both to St. Louis to play game 163 in St. Louis. The loser goes home. The winner stays put, because that's where they're going to be anyways. Same thing with like the Braves and the Mets. If they tied, well, that's different, because one team was going to be the division champs. The other team's going to be the wild card. But situation like with the Brewers and Cardinals, or the Brewers and Phillies, where if they tie for that final wild card spot, if they got to play that additional game, just send them to the venue that they're going to be playing in for the wild card round, because that just makes the most sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I just saw where Garrett Cole set the record for most strikeouts in a season.
For the Yankees pitchers, yes.
Yankees pitchers.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting, man. See how the Mets do. You know, if Scherzer can come back and be healthy, man, I think they'll be right there. It's going to be interesting playoffs. I'm ready for it. To me, don't get me wrong. I know NFL's king when it comes to people watching on TV and everything. But to me, there ain't a much better. There's not a much better product to watch on TV than playoff baseball.
Oh no, I agree.
Playoff baseball is totally different than just watching a regular season baseball game, and I think that's why a lot more people watch it. But I mean, I put playoff baseball right up there with the NFL, in my opinion, as a TV product.
Yeah.
Which I know NFL kills that. It kills everybody in ratings. Don't care what kind of show you have. NFL, I mean, that's king in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly think baseball is a better product to watch than football, just because football is such a simplistic game. You go out there, you tackle people, and then you try to score touchdowns. Baseball is so much more complex, just because of how many different pitches a pitcher throws and just the overall strategy of the game. And I think that's why I've always liked baseball more than football in terms of watching it on TV, just because it is so much more complex. It takes a lot more to do some of the things on a baseball field as opposed to the football field.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. Baseball playoffs, that's my favorite thing to watch on TV. When I watch every baseball playoff game.
I've been to a playoff game at Wrigley Field, so I know kind of what it's like to be.
I haven't been to a live playoff game yet.
I've been to one at Wrigley Field, so I know what it's like to be in like a playoff atmosphere. But even watching on TV, playoff baseball in Toronto is amazing.
Like my favorite, I haven't been to a playoff game yet because one of the reasons is my favorite team hasn't hosted a playoff game for a while. So I've been able to go to Cincinnati and watch a playoff game for a while.
Did you see the other two stats that they showed this morning?
Which ones?
So the New York Mets lead all of Major League Baseball with 41 wins against teams that are either 500 or above. Do you know who the number 2 team is?
I'm going to say the Blue Jays.
No. Chicago Cubs are number 2 at 35.
All right. Oh.
The Cubs have 35 wins against teams that are 500 or above, and yet they're 17 games under 500.
Well, that was like the Reds. If you'd have took out the first month of the season, before they got toward the end of the season, where you just kind of start playing your younger players, but there for a stretch, if you took out that first month of the season, they were playing right there. We've been right there in the division.
Exactly.
You start out 1-23, you're not. It's hard to get back in it.
Yeah, we always talk about how like small ball has died and like teams don't bunt anymore. Teams very rarely steal bases now and this and that. The Atlanta Braves are about to make Major League history in ways that I guess they don't want to make it. They are 6 games away from becoming the 8th team in Major League Baseball history to go through an entire season without a sacrifice bunt.
Wow. Not one sacrifice bunt.
Braves have yet to do a sacrifice bunt this year.
That's crazy.
And yet they're going to win over 100 games. That just goes to show you when everyone wants to complain about small ball disappearing and teams not bunting and this and that. I agree that bunting should be a thing sometimes for like suicide squeezes and things like that.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you can win 100 games without laying down a sacrifice bunt, you don't need to. And that's kind of where this team is right now. The Braves are just like, well, we don't need to bunt. We are just going to hit, and yet we still are winning games.
What's your thought? What's your thoughts on them doing away with the shift? Did you like that they're taking the shift out of the game?
From a fan perspective, yes, I am very happy that they are taking it away just because it is going to create more hits that have been lost since the shift went in place, and more hits means more offense. More offense means more runs scored, and fans obviously like more runs being scored. So from that side of things, I'm very happy that they got rid of it. But just from being somebody that follows baseball a lot more in depth than I know a lot of people do, I really don't like it because the shift shows how flawed Major League Baseball is right now. The sole purpose that you have three guys standing on one side of second base and technically one other player in the outfielder and nobody down the third baseline. I'm not asking you to bunt the damn ball, but if you can't stink and slap that ball down the third baseline to get a double, you would have a stand-up double because there's literally nobody over there. That shows you how flawed Major League Baseball hitters are right now, that they don't even attempt to go away from the shift. Like, if you're going to try to go away from the shift and yet you still can't do it, okay, that's one thing. You at least tried. These hitters aren't even trying. They're literally trying to hit it into the shift instead of trying to figure out how to bounce the ball down the third baseline for an infield single or like basically a shallow outfield double because nobody's over there.
I do think that's something you see more now of is dead pull hitters, or you don't see as many. I don't think you see as many guys that spray the ball all over the field.
And I think part of the reason why though, and it's obviously the fundamental side of things is the biggest reason why, just because they're not really teaching that anymore. But I think a big reason now is just the velocity. The velocity and how much more movement a lot of these pitchers have on their pitchers now as opposed to like even 10 years ago. Hitters really can't square up a baseball to take it the other way. It's either you guess right and you swing fast enough where you're pulling it, or you're making such weak contact that the ball's not going anywhere.
Especially with the spin rate nowadays.
Yeah. Like, you see hitters square up a baseball. Yeah, if you square up a baseball, it's going to go very far and you're going to make very solid contact even if you pull it. But if you don't square up that baseball and you're late, even the slightest, you have such weak contact right now that I don't even think people that practice going the opposite way, like at practice or however they do things, I don't think they can even have success with it anymore just because of how much movement these pitchers have on their pitchers now. It's not as easy to weight back on the ball a little bit just to square it up and drive it the opposite way. You pretty much have to guess right and hope to make this solid contact to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you got a ball coming up there 100 miles an hour or more, you have maybe a half second to react, maybe a second if you're lucky to react, whether you're going to swing or not. And then it's all about swinging at the right spot. And like you said, with the movement on these balls, it's not. I don't think people realize how hard it is to get up there and hit a baseball. I think a lot of people think, oh, I get up there. I don't care if it's coming at me at 95, 100 miles an hour. It ain't that hard to hit a baseball. Get in the batter's box and let somebody throw a ball 95 miles per hour and see how many times you can hit it. Well, harder than people think.
The fact that Major League Baseball's the average batting average across Major League Baseball right now is 241. The fact that 250 is considered above average shows you how much different baseball is now.
What other thing in life can you do that if you're succeeding 25% of the time, you're considered to be average?
Nothing. But that just shows you how difficult baseball is now.
If you're doing that 30% of the time, you're you can be great.
You go back 10 years, 2012, the average across Major League Baseball was like a 264. So, 264 is still not great. It's above 250, but 10 years later, you go from a 264 down to a 241.
I was going to say this year it's like in the 240s, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this year it's even lower than that. I think this year it's like 237,
yeah, this year's been low. And why do you think it's lower this year? Just are the pitchers just getting that much better velocity?
velocity plays a big role of that, but obviously spin rate, the shift, because you're taking hits away from dead pull hitters. But it's just the hitters, not necessarily the inability to make contact as opposed to worrying about the power. It's the fact that everybody preaches this damn launch angle now.
Yeah, everything's about the launch angle,
as opposed to just squaring it up and hitting it. So now with this launch angle, everybody wants this uppercut swing that you're going to swing and miss at a pitch down the middle because you're uppercutting it. You're not swinging straight across. And these players are strong enough where someone throws a 95-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle. If you square it up with the barrel of your bat, it's a home run. You don't need freaking launch angle. It's going to go over the fence if you make solid contact.
Yeah, and nowadays people don't worry about strikeouts like they used to either. Like you said, it's all about the launch angle, trying to hit the home run. And if you do have a high amount of strikeouts, the teams aren't worried about that as much as they used to be in previous years.
Previous years, you were lucky to see a team that would have one, maybe two players with 150 strikeouts on a team. If you have anybody on your team under 100 strikeouts now, it's an anomaly.
Yeah. So, and I think Eric, because there ain't very many players. I don't think there's probably very many players in the league that have over or under 100 strikeouts anymore. It's crazy. Well, before we get out of here today, you have any final thoughts or something that we didn't cover that you just wanted to talk about?
Nope. Just want to give Aaron Judge congratulations on finally getting to number 61 last night. I know he said last night and this morning that it's a huge sigh of relief that he finally got there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you listen to Roger Maris's son, who was actually at the game last night, he basically said the moment that Aaron Judge hits number 62, a lot of this generation of baseball players is going to consider him the home run king over Barry Bonds just because he did it without the steroids.
Real quick, what are your thoughts on that? Would you have Judge as the home run king, or do you think
I'm going to have him as the American League home run king because he's going to have more home runs than any other American League player, but I'm not going to put him over Barry Bonds. Steroids or not steroids, Barry Bonds was still one hell of a hitter that knew what the heck he was doing.
I agree with you. I have the same stance on that. For one, yeah, it can make you stronger, but it didn't help his hand-eye coordination to be able to hit the ball. And then for two, baseball knew what was going on and encouraged it. And then you want to vilify these guys later on. So yeah, I agree with you. He's the American League home run king, but I still have Bonds as the home run king until somebody gets he's at 73, right? So somebody gets 74.
Yep.
And I thought Judge might have had a chance this year, but it just hurt him because people you're gonna see less hittable pitches as you get closer to that record.
I don't think anybody is ever going to hit 70 home runs again. I just don't. I'm honestly surprised that Aaron Judge got to 60. And it has nothing to do with like the fact that these hitters can't do it.
The pitching.
It's the fact that the pitchers throw harder, they throw better, and the strikeout numbers are so much higher now than they were in the past that you're losing more at bats via the strikeouts than you're gaining. And that's why I don't think anyone outside of maybe Judge this year, I don't see too many people hitting 60 home runs anymore. I don't see too many people hitting 50 home runs anymore just because now it's, let's just say you strike out 40 or 30% of your plate appearances. And now you're hitting 40 home runs. That's basically 50% of your plate appearances on the year are going to be strikeout or home run.
Yeah. Yep. You're right. And that's what the game's gone to. Like you said, it's all about the launch angle. Real quick before we do get out of here, if you're affected, if you're in the line of this hurricane, stay safe. We got quite a few guys from the ASAP All Sports All Plays Network that are down there in the Florida area. I know some of them lost power last night and stuff. So stay safe. If you have to get out of there, get out of there. But definitely have all the people affected by this storm in our thoughts and prayers. Dustin, you have anything else before we get out of here for today, man?
Nope, that'll be it.
Join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern for another episode of Around the Bases. We'll talk about the playoffs starting here in just less than a week. Well, tomorrow make it a week away.
Yep.
But appreciate everybody joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. Have a great day and stay safe.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we're making a place. We're talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.